Welcome to the Building Up Women in Property podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Bangura, and I'm thrilled to have you here with me today. This podcast is for ambitious women who work in property and construction who want to learn how to have a career they love on their terms. Join me every week where I'll leave you excited and confident to take your next steps. Thanks for being here with me. Now let's get started. Hello, it is great to have you here. And as I'm recording this, I am on the cusp of my 40th birthday. And as with big milestones, they present a great opportunity to really reflect on what we've achieved, how far we've come, what we've done, and also to look forward to what we want next. And as I've been thinking about this over the last few weeks, there is one theme that I keep coming back to, and it is this idea of self-belief and the power that it has in our lives. Because I really do believe that believing in ourselves is crucial to achieve any result. It is crucial to our success at work, in our personal lives, with anything we want to achieve. And so today I wanted to take you a little bit behind the scenes and share with you how I developed my own self-belief over the last couple of decades and where I think that's taking me moving forward, in the hope that this will really help build your own self-confidence and self-belief and encourage you to take some bold steps and take action in your career, in your life, to create a life and career that is rewarding and exciting for you. So when we think about self-belief, it's really around the confidence and trust that we have in our own abilities and our ability to make good decisions. And whilst growing up, I think I was always instilled with confidence and the belief that I could do anything, I don't think it really hit home for me until my late 20s. And forgive me, because I know I've shared this on the podcast before, but in my early 20s, I took up running. And I'd run a bit as a kid, but not a lot. But I took up running at a point in my life where I had lost someone close to me to suicide. And I think I was really trying to deal with the grief of that. And running seemed like a good outlet. At the time, I could barely get around the block, but I stuck with it. I really persisted. And ultimately, over a period of a few years, running became absolutely part of my lifestyle. It became part of who I am and how I identified with myself. And I went from struggling to run the block to running half marathons and then running full marathons and then doing crazy 100K hikes and all sorts of amazing adventures. But it all really started with just making the commitment to stick to something and to stick to something that I wasn't great at to begin with. What I loved about running was I could see my progress, and I really got fueled by that because, to be honest, I'm a complete type A personality. And so my 20s really were defined by three things. They were defined by work. I worked incredibly hard in my 20s. I got a great deal of technical experience. I studied. So I finished my bachelor's degree and I also did 2 masters in that time. And I ran. That was what I did in my 20s. But it was the running that really set the tone for me. It proved for me that you could start anywhere and create an amazing result. You could become competitive. You could build the stamina if you were willing to do the work. And I remember that feeling in myself of, how am I going to get through this? And all I would focus on is the next lamppost. Get to the next lamppost and then reassess. And I could run 42 miles doing that. And through the practice, through the habit of showing up, I became incredibly committed and incredibly resilient. And I learned to stick to the plan. Even if I didn't like it, I stopped waiting for motivation to strike for me to take action. I was so clear on my goal and my purpose. That was what got me out the door, even if I didn't feel like it. I honestly think that running and running marathons, I think it has been one of the greatest gifts I have given myself because it proved to me I could do it. It instilled for me what self-belief can do and the willingness to show up and do the work. It instilled in me this sense of self-belief that I could do anything, no matter how hard it was, no matter how much pain I was in or what the struggles were, I could make it. And I became adaptable. I dealt with setbacks. I kept taking action and progressing and improving my results. And I could see that tangibly, and it just fueled me. It's something I lean on now all the time. Whenever I face a hard situation, I think of what's the next lamppost I need to run to. And it's having that big clear vision at the end, but also just the short sprint to get through that next part that really has been crucial to how I approach things and how I see myself. And one of the things I see so often in my clients and people around me is that they look to others for validation. Other people's validation is how they determine their own self-worth and what they are capable of. And I think when we do this, we sell ourselves so short, because the simple fact is most people aren't paying that much attention to us. If we're always looking externally for what is possible for our own lives, for our own careers, we miss the opportunity to do something brilliant and something great and something bold that has perhaps never been done before. And particularly in our industry, women are forging new pathways ahead every day. We do not have the role models that we would like to have in our industry. So some people are out there creating those. And why shouldn't it be you? And my hope is that you are the next trailblazer leading the way, but you can't do that from a place of needing other people's permission or approval. That has to be driven within you. So I think the best way we can do this is really by tracking our success, because success does leave pathways. It leaves clues. So I think for each of us, it's worth keeping that brag book where we write down our wins, where we celebrate our success, it's big and small. And we need to start investing the time and energy in reinforcing the type of person we are and the self-belief that we can do whatever we set our mind to. And we stop waiting for circumstances to be right or easy or for others to approve or give permission. And we start taking chances on ourselves. There's a Beyonce quote, and I think it's something along the lines of, I will always bet on myself. I love that, because ultimately we are in control of ourselves. We have full agency and things won't always be easy. But if you won't back yourself, who will? And I see this so often when I've interviewed in the past or when I meet people, and they'll say something or they'll answer a question seeking approval. They don't exude confidence. And when we don't have that confidence, it's really hard for other people to believe we are capable. We can't expect other people to see the greatness in ourselves if we can't see it ourselves. So we need to make that habit of acknowledging what we are capable of, what we have done, and what we can do in the future.
I hope you've been enjoying the episode. I wanted to take a moment to let you know about my free Career Confidence Masterclass. This is for ambitious career-orientated women who are ready to stop playing small and to confidently create a career you love. Head over to my website, beautifuldisruptions.com, for more info. Now let's get back to the episode.
And so as I reflect back on my 20s, I think creating a sense of identity for myself, creating the skills and knowledge I needed for my career were really pivotal. But definitely the biggest thing was laying this foundation of self-belief that I could do hard things if I wanted to. And then fast forwarding, as I look at my 30s, this is a very different decade for me. My 30s were very much dictated by family and relationships and changing course. I got married in my early 30s. We bought our dream house. And then I had my 2 boys in my mid to sort of late 30s. And having a family shifts your focus. Suddenly, instead of worrying about yourself, you're worrying about another human. I know everyone says this, but until you're there, you can't understand the impact of that. But I've always seen that as a huge asset for myself, my ability to juggle all the things. And I think as working mothers, that's something we often downplay. We downplay how awesome we are and how we are able to hold space for so many things. And I think the narrative around that is changing at a societal level as well. But I think it's really good for us to acknowledge the struggles and the challenges that can bring, as well as, of course, managing a career at the same time and the setbacks that quite often do happen with maternity leaves and career breaks. I've experienced that myself. But I think another really defining part of my 30s was about 7 years ago, I had just landed my dream job. I was super excited about it for about 9 months. And then I found myself thinking, gosh, what's next? And I actually had a bit of a come to Jesus moment for myself where I literally had, in the space of a year, got this dream job, I'd gotten married, I'd bought this house. On paper, everything in my life looked fantastic. But inside, I was feeling deeply dissatisfied. I was struggling with what was next for me. How would I be challenged? How would I be motivated? How would I prove myself? And I recognized at that time that every time I achieved something, I was constantly pushing the bar for the next thing. I was in such a hurry to achieve the next goal. And it wasn't just that I'm highly motivated and ambitious, which I am, but it was more about the fact that I was actually just never satisfied. I was never fulfilled with anything for very long. That made me really question myself and where I was going, and really ask myself the question of, when will I be satisfied? What am I working hard towards? What is the end state where I think I will suddenly be happy and where I will suddenly feel like I'm enough? And this led me on a journey to working with my first coach, to doing a whole lot of self-discovery and work on myself to really think beyond just my career as what defined me, and looking at these other areas of my life and what was possible for my career and what was possible for my life if I was willing to look beyond the obvious career path for myself. I was really fortunate to be offered the opportunity to do a secondment up in Western Australia for 3 or 4 months. And I literally packed my bags, went up there and spent that time working in an Indigenous community up in Broome. And it was really a process of self-discovery for me. And for the first time, considered what my life could look like if I were to do something different, or if I were in a different environment. And after that experience, I started talking to more people, particularly women in the industry, around what the pathway forward was. And I realized that so many of us were struggling with this constant need for approval, this constant need to prove ourselves and challenge ourselves for the next thing, and feeling like we were a little lost in uncharted territory where we didn't have strong role models or strong support. And ultimately, that's what led me down this pathway of deciding to shift into leadership development and coaching, because I found not only was the work so hugely rewarding for me, and it really did shift my perception, but doing that work actually correlated a huge increase in my happiness, my sense of fulfillment. And I also started to do better at work, as in I started to get paid more, I started to speak up more, I started to get rewarded and get more opportunities. And I started to realize the power of this and why we need more support in the property and construction industry for women, more investment and conversation around how we develop women and create sustainable careers for them in the industry where they can actually reach senior leadership roles, where they can have influence. And I'm so pleased that I started doing this work and really question these things for myself. And in the process, I made the decision to take a different tangent to my career. And that required a whole new level of self-belief. It required me to be willing to step away from what I knew and start again. And while I was really lucky to have support from my partner and my family, ultimately it fell on my shoulders. And again, I leant on those pathways of success. What have I achieved in the past? And also, what is possible for me? What could the future look like if I really gave myself a blank canvas? And I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad that I took the risk on myself, that I had the confidence and the belief to go out on a tangent, because the work I do now is rewarding in a way that I hadn't experienced before. I get to see the impact and influence I have on the careers of women in our industry who are forging their way ahead. And so I think whatever we are working towards, whatever it is we dream of or aspire to, we have to be willing to back ourselves. We have to be willing to go all in. And sometimes we will have a roadmap for how to get there. And other times we won't. Other times we will almost need to have blind faith that we can do it. But when you have that self-belief, when you have that self-concept of someone who can achieve anything, then you're willing to take the risk. You're willing to do the work. And I think we need to actively cultivate that and manage our minds around these things, because that's a huge part of it, mindset and resilience, and really take the time and effort to develop these qualities in ourselves, knowing that they will hugely impact our work, our careers, our families, our lives, every aspect of our lives. I literally had an experience the other day where I had been stuck I would say for months on how to get traction with something. And suddenly I got an email from a friend and I read it, and almost within a matter of minutes, my brain found a solution to a problem I had been pondering for months. It came to me really easily, but it was only because in that moment, I allowed myself to imagine what was possible. I allowed myself to believe that I had the solution and follow that train of thinking. Before that, I'd been really stuck in doubt. I'd been very critical, and I hadn't even allowed my brain to go to that place of finding the solution. And I think, again, this is the reminder that we are always doing this work around managing our mind, working on our own self-belief and our own self-confidence and our own self-concept. This work is so important because when we view things from a lens of can-do and belief and possibility, everything shifts. What is possible changes, and what we are capable of changes. And I want to say to you, if you are feeling unsure, if you are uncertain about what is possible for you or what the path ahead is, please just take it from me. You are capable and you have what it takes to step up, to become a leader. And the sooner you embrace that, the sooner you do the work to really reinforce that idea in your mind, the sooner it will all start to come together like a jigsaw puzzle. It will all become clear. As I said, as I go into my 40s now, I'm really so conscious of holding that space for myself and allowing myself to be the biggest version of me, the biggest, boldest version of me, and not being constrained by other people's rules or perceptions and ideas, but actually working out what it is that I need and where I can add the most value and be the most authentic and genuine, and trusting myself above all else. I'm really excited to see what I achieve over this next decade and how I reflect back on this. But I have no doubt that self-belief and courage will be a huge part of what takes me through the next decade as well. Okay, my friend, have a beautiful day. I will see you next week.
Thank you for joining me on the Building Up Women in Property podcast. I'm Rebecca Bangura, and if you'd like to learn more about what I do, head over to LinkedIn and connect with me. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.